Hi, I'm Frédéric Desbiens from the Oracle Cloud and Mobility Product Management team. In this recording, I will show you how to use the Oracle Public Maven Repository from the command line. So the very first step is to ensure that you register for access to the public repository. In order to do that, the simplest way is to go to mavenoracle.com with your web browser and to click on the registration link on the page. Once you will have opened a session with your Oracle or OTN account, you will get access to the terms and conditions for the service. Read them attentively and even show them to your lawyer if you're not sure. And once you are okay with the terms and conditions, you can accept them. By accepting the terms, you get access to the repository. So now, the second step in order to use the repository is to ensure that you've got the proper environment variables on your machine. So there are two of them. First, you must ensure that you've got Java Home set correctly. Okay. And then you've got the M2 and M2 Home variables. So in this case, I will just show you that M2 has been set the right way. In addition, that path that you see on the screen for the M2 variable has been added to the path environment variable on my machine. This means when I type mvn version, I get all the diagnostic information that shows that everything has been set up correctly. Okay, so those are the environment variables. Now, another thing that you need to do in order to use the repository is to define some settings. So you've got on your hard drive the settings.xml file. Okay, so if I go on my C drive and I navigate to users and my account, and then inside I've got the M2 subfolder with settings and another file that I will talk a bit later. Okay, so the settings.xml file contains all the information you need in order to get access to the repository. So you've got a definition for the server with a username and password, and then you've got a profile which is active by default, and this profile points to the public Maven repository, and it's defined twice, one as an artifact repository and one as a plugin repository, and those distinctions are really important. Anyway, once you have those settings, the other thing to do is to encrypt your passwords. So in order to encrypt your password, you must generate a master password. In order to do that, you use the command line. So you type this, encrypt master password, and then suppose your password is Oracle. And this is what you get. So this is an encrypted string. If I rerun the command again, it will be encrypted, but completely different. Okay, so this is functionally the same string, but it has been encrypted and in a way that no two executions of the command will give you the same thing twice. So in order to use that encrypted master password, you must have a settingssecurity.xml file, exactly like this one, in the same directory as your settings.xml file. And once you have this master password, then you can encrypt your other passwords. So for example, if my password for the Oracle Public Maven Repository, or the password attached to my Oracle account, if it is my password, for example, then I type encrypt password as the command. So mvn encrypt password, my password, and then I get another encrypted string that I could cut and paste right here in my settings.xml file. Okay, good. So now we have encrypted password, which is very important. Another important thing is to ensure that you get an updated version of the Wagon HTTP dependency, and you must put it at the right place on your hard drive. So in this case, you must go to the place where Maven is installed, and I'm using the Maven provided by JDeveloper. So I drill down to modules here. I go to Apache Maven and then lib ext, and here you see Wagon HTTP 2.8. This is absolutely necessary to do in order to get access to the repository, the Oracle Public Maven Repository. Now, if you are using more recent versions of Maven, you won't need to do that, because starting with Maven 3.2.5, I think, Wagon HTTP 2.8 is included. However, I don't recommend to use a more recent Maven version, because not all of Oracle's plugins have been validated with more recent versions of Maven. So if you do that, if you use a more recent version, then you will be on your own. Okay, so we've got the right Wagon version. And now let's have a look at the POM file for my ADF application. So the name for that ADF application is full Maven test. Okay, and we see I declare as a security Wagon 2.8 as an extension. And I've got an entry for the OJMake plugin, an entry for the OJDeploy plugin. So those plugins will be used to compile and create the ER and WAR files for the application, because this is a web ADF application. And on the other end, I've included here the WebLogic Maven plugin in order to deploy the application to WebLogic. In this case, I'll be using the integrated instance of WebLogic inside my JDeveloper. Okay, so we see that it will execute on the pre-integration test phase of the Maven lifecycle. And an important thing also, on the top of the WebLogic plugin is that, well, first you must specify the right server. So the name for the server defined by JDeveloper for the integrated WebLogic instance is default server. And in my dependencies, I must as well include this, okay? So WebLogic classes, so we see a specific path on the file system, okay? Because the WebLogic plugin needs that file in order to work properly, okay? So with all that in my POM file, okay, I'm ensured that everything will work correctly at deployment time. Now, there's another thing we should do. Okay, so this is, I will open my ADF application, so the full Maven test application. And yeah, I've already started my WebLogic. So anyway, the important thing about that application is very, very simple. Okay, I built it on the top of the HR sample database. And we see here I've got a few view objects for departments, employees, and jobs. Okay, and then here I've got a single web page that I will execute a bit later. Now, this application, okay, you must ensure that it doesn't generate at deployment time some WebLogic descriptors for the JDBC connection. Okay, so my ADF BCs are already configured to use a GNDI data source, a JDBC GNDI data source. Now I must ensure that, okay, this is not checked. Okay, if you check this, okay, and it is checked by default if you create a brand new ADF application, the deployment will fail. So what you should do is to uncheck that specific value. You don't want, okay, the JDBC descriptors to be generated. And then after that, the other thing you must do is to go to the WebLogic console, and inside the services, you've got the data sources. So you create a data source with the values you need in order to connect to your database. Okay, this is really, really important. All right, now is the time for the actual demo. I will now simply let Maven do its magic. So first I must type the correct command. So in this case, since I will deploy, I'm using the pre-integration test goal. Okay, and I must also specify on the command line the value for the Oracle home variable. I have, well, probably a dozen of different Oracle homes on that specific machine, so it's easier for me to specify the variable on the command line rather than set it for the whole system. So in this case, I will point it on the actual directory where my JDev install can be found. All right. So now Maven will compile and deploy the application and package it between the two, obviously, as an ER file. In order to package it, it will use the OJ deploy Maven plugin, and in order to compile it, it will use the OJ make plugin, as we see on the screen. Now, the actual time that the build will take may vary according to the power of your computer, as well as if you have already compiled an ADF application using Maven or not. So if the dependencies are already in your local repository, then everything will be much quicker. Otherwise, well, obviously Maven will need to download everything from the Oracle Public Repository. So now I will accelerate things a bit so we won't have to wait for the whole process in real time. And now the build has been successful and the application has been deployed on the integrated WebLogic instance inside my JDeveloper. So let's have a look at the application now. So it's a very simple app, okay, just to show that it runs. So I execute the single page inside, and I will get a list right from the database in a few seconds. Here it is. So we see actual data coming from the database. So when things are done the right way, a Maven demo is boring. And it's boring because things work, because are done for you, things are automated. But the potential of the tool is enormous, especially in the context of continuous integration scenarios. So I hope you will give the Oracle Public Maven Repository a try. And, well, you will have all the details about how to do that in my blog entry.